There's too much me in the camera. People don't want to look at me. Look
I
at
don't
you.
think people want to look at me either.
I don't know. You need to get closer because there's way too much of me in this camera, and that's just going to chase people away. No one's going to want to watch this video, right?
Okay.
But now the sun's shining on you, so it's
I know, I'm white. That's why.
there's a see-through translucent thing going on. We can see your hair and your eyes.
Yeah. I have a black
And your
shirt
water
on my
bottle.
face, yeah.
Still, should be more of you than me for sure. Now I forgot what we're supposed to be talking about. No, I remember. Yeah, guys, I got something to say. It's just really, really, really important. We care about a lot of things, and we care about our students and stuff, but there's some things y'all think we care about that we don't care about at all. And so I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I know and I understand, especially having raised the son I have up to this point, and I know Miss Rose gets this too. Kids are little human creatures, and as humans,
Tiny humans.
their brains put together all kinds of connections in all kinds of strange and funny ways based on their experience and how they felt about those experiences and how those experiences made them feel and things like that. And so a child and their behavior and actions is not 100% or accurately a reflection of parenting. It's not. Every kid's going to be different. Like, you could use the same methods of parenting across 6 different kids, and every one of them is going to respond completely different. They're all going to be completely different in how they come out and the things that happen and how they feel about things and this, that, and the other. And as they grow, especially when they're hitting 5, 6, 7 years old, and of course, again, it happens around 11, 12, 13, but as they grow, they're becoming their own person. So just because a kid says something or does something that seems really out there or strange, we're not going to judge your parenting. We don't see that necessarily as a reflection of you. Kids' brains are trying to put together connections of all varieties all the time, and then they get excited and they say strange things and they do strange things, and that's kids. That's completely normal and 100% part of the developmental process. And so y'all have got to stop being embarrassed about y'all's kids' actions when they're in class. If a kid is acting up a little bit, sometimes we have parents, oh, I don't know, my kid's so disrespectful, I don't know about, having them like that. No, they're fine. That's what they're here to learn. They're here to learn how to set boundaries. They're here to learn, and we have specific policies and things in place to help us show them how boundaries get set and what consent is and how to work with those boundaries and this, that, and the other. So, if your kid does something a little bit cringy on the floor, in no way, shape, or form should you be embarrassed, and in no way, shape, or form do any of our instructors judge your parenting or you as a parent.
You don't even judge your kid.
Yeah, we don't even judge your kid because they're a kid. They're just like random firing of all kinds of stuff, right? And they have such an imagination and such creativity that, yes, maybe they have to dig on past experience and things they've heard to put together new ideas, but oftentimes those ideas at that age are made up of things that don't fit together, that make no sense together, and so it comes out in a really strange behavior or, talking about something really strange. Yes, sometimes kids act up. Yes, they're going to act up. Is your 6-year-old, 7-year-old going to have a perfect sidekick? No, none of them are. Try to relax and just be supportive. Fact of the matter is kids under around 9 years old have a very difficult time mentally doing what's known as static motion. That's stop and go motion, which is what's necessary to learn the exactness of body mechanics and exactly how to have your body turned, your foot turned, your hand turned, exactly how to perform a technique or this, that, and the other. And so our classes that are under those ages, and this is why we have separate classes for kids under those ages, their brains are designed to learn dynamically and with much less detail. And so by giving them too much detail or too many things to think about, one, they're going to think they're not very good at it. Two, they're going to really start to struggle worse than normal, versus being able to take a 6-year-old and say, hey, turn sideways and put your foot on this pad. You'd be surprised how well that works. Is their alignment going to be perfect? No. Is their balance going to be perfect? No, not even close. But getting them to be able to do that helps build the hip strength and flexibility and the concept behind the technique that's going to be necessary, so that when they get into the older classes, when they get into our traditional class, they're already going to know the technique and have a good sense of strength and flexibility in the hips as they then begin to learn the details of the body mechanic and how to produce power and exactly how to hold your balance and things along those lines. But at first, we just want them to move. We just want to move them in the right direction, get them the idea of what certain techniques kind of are and look like. And you'd be amazed how many of them eventually fix their own foot position, fix their own body position as they learn how to just throw the technique better and better without necessarily being told, just being allowed to practice and being challenged and things like that. And this goes for behavior too. This isn't just that, right? It goes for behavior too. We had a lot of this recently, so I wanted to kind of nip this in the bud. We've had a lot of this stuff recently about parents apologizing because their kid was talkative in class. Oh my goodness, it's fine. Kids are talkative sometimes. Yes, maybe we had to give a consequence, or maybe we had to
ask, are you talking while I'm talking?
Yeah, or give a reminder or whatever. We try to be really gentle about those, but in no way, shape, or and I think some parents, I think they get it like they see us be gentle and they think we're being too gentle maybe sometimes. But if you might notice that our methods do work, right? It just takes time and consistency. If you give us a little bit of time to play out the entirety of the method to make sure that it works. And behaviorally, the way they act, things they say, they're not going to be the greatest. They're not going to be, and who would want them to be? At 6 years old, they should be having fun. They should be learning. At 5 years old, they should be having fun. Even all the way up through 8 years old, they should be having fun with it as they are learning, and a little bit of work, yes, and learning about discipline and this, that, and the other. But they should be having fun. And I know we've had parents in the past embarrassed that that we had a talk with their child or something about running up and hugging an instructor or something like that. But our instructors, they all do the same thing. We gently push them away. Our policy is to smile and laugh about it, be upbeat about it, but simply to say, hey, remember, you got to ask permission first, because I didn't give you permission to touch me or grab onto me like that. And this teaches them how to set boundaries through example, and it also teaches them how to respect boundaries and consent and things along those lines. And so it is nothing to be embarrassed about. And in all reality, if a kid runs up and hugs one of our instructors, yes, we might feel a little awkward because we don't want anyone to see that the wrong way. And yes, we want to establish that boundary, not the boundary of hugs, but the boundary of asking permission, right? Especially with the younger kids, because they need hugs, the boundary of consent. At the same time, deep down, every single one of us is excited about the fact that a kid enjoyed our thing enough to want to run up and give us a hug, and we completely enjoy that. The only reason that we stop kids that do that kind of thing is to establish the boundaries of consent and establish the boundaries of what is appropriate contact, because sometimes they'll run up and just grab us while we're standing, and it's much more appropriate if we're allowed to get down on our knees, do the side hug, right? So without getting into too much detail there. So I just want you guys to know, if you ever try classes or you're part of classes and you feel like, oh, my kid was acting up today, my kid had a rough day, oh, my kid is struggling so bad with this technique, don't worry too much about it. If you have issues with something you think you would like to see improved in their coaching, come to us. We will either talk to you about how we are trying to keep it age appropriate, and they will learn that once they get to a certain level of understanding, or we will oftentimes say, well, let me see if I can work with them on that and see what I can do. But like I've said many times before, kids need two things. They don't need two coaches. They need two things. They need coach and they need support, right? Encouragement and support. And so if you have an issue, you want to see them improve on something, come talk to your instructor about it. We'll make sure that we work on something to help them improve it. But from you, they need support. If they're getting coached from both sides, that ends up causing, especially when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, that can end up causing a little bit of animosity. It can end up causing them to feel not very confident, which can end up actually hurting the concept of discipline in the ways that we teach it, and can end up just essentially making them start giving up putting in any effort at all, which we've seen that before many times. And I've had to have talks with several parents over the years who had distinct disagreements with me about this. But I'm thinking one guy in particular a few years ago had a few kids in, and they ended up moving, and they kept the kids in, but me and the father disagreed greatly on the maybe best practices of discipline, and like he was constantly hovering around them on the floor and getting onto them harshly and constantly trying to coach their technique and things along those lines. And I had several talks with him about how we do things and about how that's being detrimental to the situation. And I had some talks with the kids too, and he never did come around to our point of view. But at the same time, the difference that we had in those kids' behavior from day one to the last day was unbelievable. Like, those kids got to be like, they were so rambunctious on that first day that we couldn't hardly keep them still. They were all over the place. They were into everything. But by that last day, and we were patient with them. It's okay. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's what kids do. And our entire facility is designed for them to poke around a little bit. And we have things around to play with, and it's kind of designed to, don't worry about them breaking anything. Don't worry about what they got into on the back floor. I have a secret toy chest back there. It's not secret. Let them find it. It's fine.
We do too. It gets set out every day for the little bitties to play with.
Right. And the effect that we had on those kids over time and their confidence levels was crazy, and the leadership ability of those kids was crazy. But yeah, no need to be embarrassed.
Yeah. But going back to what you said about...
You need to be louder. We don't have a mic.
I've been losing my voice.
I know, but we don't have a mic.
One of my kids last night told me that my voice was annoying because it sounds like this.
I lost my voice last week for the same thing.
So going back to what you said about needing the coach and needing the encouragement, the support, you know, if any of you have listened to any of my classes, you will have heard, especially me talking to the little ones, about how you're not supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to be perfect the first time you try something, or the 5th time, or the 100th time you try something. You're supposed to make mistakes because that's how you grow.
And what we're about is striving for perfection where perfection does not exist. It can't exist. And so no one's going to get it. But at the same time, if you're constantly, what Mrs. Rose is getting to here, if you're constantly feeling put down or putting yourself down for not being as good as you thought you should be in your head or want to be in your head,
or your parents think you should be, or your coaches, or
see, the thing that ruins most people's hopes and dreams and things along those lines is expectations. The expectation, feeling like someone's got like maybe a parent has an expectation on their child to act a certain way or do a certain thing. Those expectations can eventually be crushing, especially if the child struggles with a certain thing, physical, behavioral, or otherwise. Then those expectations become crushing, and they begin to have higher expectations themselves as the parents have higher expectations of them. And then if they feel like, even just feel slightly like they didn't quite meet those expectations because of an impulse that a 6-year-old had, because 6-year-olds have impulses, so do 7-year-olds, and they do things and say things out of turn. It's fine, right? That's part of it. They're impulsive by nature. It's okay. They're learning that control as we go.
Developmentally appropriate
our classes are designed to help them learn to control that thing, right? But if they feel like those expectations are so high, and they have those high expectations of themselves, and they're never going to feel like they make those expectations, and therefore they're never going to have any actual fun. They're never going to enjoy what they're doing, and eventually it's going to become a bad taste in their mouth.
Yep. And trust me, I know all the instructors on the front floor, we wait for those quote-unquote cringy behaviors. We wait for them to forget to raise their hand, because 3/4 of the time they say something absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Or they do something absolutely hilarious.
If you spend time watching my classes, you'll see me laugh and then or be serious and be like, you spoke out of turn, and then laugh and make a joke about what they said.
Yeah.
It's just how we do it, and it's okay, because sometimes, look, we don't want our kids' classes to feel like they're in an ultra formal environment. There are other studios, if you want them to feel like they're in an ultra formal environment where they always have to be in a clean pressed, perfect uniform with a perfectly tied belt and always standing in perfect attention, we'll recommend you a place, but our place is not for you. Because the fact of the matter is the more formal you set it up, especially with the younger ages and with the kids and things like that, the more formal you make it, 1, the less fun you make it, 2, the less relatability and connection you have with the students. And with you have less of that, they are less likely to listen to your advice or to, pay attention to the lessons that you're trying to teach, right? They're going to pay a little bit more attention if they feel a little bit more connected, a little bit more laid back. On top of that, one of the other reasons we have informal classes is for y'all, for the parents, because like, I can't imagine, I am so disorganized with my diagnoses and whatnot. I can't imagine trying to make sure my child always came in with a perfectly pressed, clean uniform, and I can't imagine my child, even as y'all that know Mr. Axel know, like he's generally quite what's the word for it? He's on point, like when it comes to his behavior and things like that most of the time, especially in public and especially at the school. But I couldn't imagine even asking him to constantly be in that formal environment and be in trouble if they wore the wrong gi, or in trouble if they weren't standing at perfect attention, or things along those lines.
I'm already overwhelmed thinking about making sure a uniform is pressed.
Yeah,
like 3 days a week.
I've attended a couple of those schools, and don't get me wrong, some of those schools teach great martial arts, but they don't venture into the life skills that much. They don't venture into the coping skills that much, and they don't establish as much of a connection with the students in a healthy manner. I feel like ultra formal environments create either tend to create cult-like followings of super fans that they end up with this cult-like following of an instructor that they don't even know that well or understand that well on a personal level, because that instructor keeps such a distance, and that creates even more of this sort of air of mystery and sort of like that mystic cult type leader situation. And I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be any part of that, top, bottom, or otherwise. I want this to feel like a family environment, like a supportive group of friends and teammates, and you can't do that in an ultra formal environment. You just can't.
I will be like that super fun auntie. I will have fun with you, and I will play games with you, and we'll learn a lot of stuff.
But you're going to follow my rules.
I bet you're going to follow my rules, and you might get kicked because we spar.
You're going to follow my rules, and you're going to, and you know, you're going to deal with my reminders, and you're going to do your best, even if it's not perfect. You're going to do your best to try to behave in a certain manner, or this, that, and the other. But yeah, our classes are designed to help you as parents. I think some parents come in and think of only the physical activity side of things, and think, well, the main focus is learning how to defend yourself and punches and kicks and things along those lines. And no, before they ever learn that, they first have to learn motor skills, or intricate motor skills.
Proprioception.
They have to learn balance, proprioception, motor skills, things along those lines. They have to learn that first, which is why those little kids programs and the beginner traditional classes taught the way it is. They have to learn all those skills first. And the same thing when it comes to, fact of the matter is we don't teach martial arts as a self-defense. We teach martial arts as active protection. That includes self-defense, but active protection is also about keeping yourself safe in different situations without the need or use of physical whatever, right? Because let's face it, most battles can be won before there's ever a battle fought, and without ever fighting an actual physical battle. And most of the battles that we face today are with mental health issues. They're with anxiety, they're with coping skills, they're with dealing with other people in a way that you know, without losing their temper. It's things along those lines. Those are the biggest battles we fight every day. And so when I say active protection, we include those skills with the physical self-defense skills. And in order to include those skills, one, we focus on one every week that we talk about, but two is why we have these certain policies. Well, we will remind kids about raising the hand, we'll remind kids about this, that, and the other, you know, to make sure that everything's, you know, that they're learning the value of respect and the coping skills and the consent and all of those things. It's all baked into our policies and this, that, and the other. I know, like, I've had before too, parents get embarrassed when, say, they get introduced to sparring, a kid gets introduced to sparring, and they don't stop when we ask them to stop, or they start, like, throwing techniques way harder than necessary. And sometimes parents get so embarrassed that they quit over it. Sometimes parents get so embarrassed because we will pull the kid aside and say, hey, is there a reason that you're hitting so hard? Is there a reason you won't stop after the break? Are you getting angry? Because if you're angry, we don't spar angry. We don't spar when we're mad. And so if you're angry, you're not going to spar anymore today. And no, you're not going to be able to get your stripe because of it, but we can come in and try better another day. Or I'm going to have you spar with an instructor until you learn how to control those techniques and how to control that anger to not stop yourself. But you can't get stripes from sparring with an instructor. You got to get, unless it's a special thing, because it's like a stripe makeup or something. But mostly you have to go with the other students for that sort of thing. Of course, this is in the 7-8-year-old program and up.
Yes.
And the sparring is light and point sparring. It's actually a game of tag. It's actually the sport sparring. It's what you might see in a tournament for kids and other things is what we do in there. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes parents get so embarrassed or frustrated about the fact that their kid lost control or something. But in all reality, we aren't judging you. We're not even judging your kid. We just understand. We understand that it can be frustrating, that maybe a kid gets frustrated or angry because things are happening faster than they wanted them to, or they feel like they're not doing as well as they should be able to do, and so they get angry and they act out and they lash out, and sometimes they lash out at other kids. But everybody's safety is our main concern. So when we do something like that, we don't embarrass the kid. We don't do it in front of everybody. We pull them aside. We talk to them quietly. After class, we try to talk to the parents a little bit, things along those lines. But it's not a big deal. We're not judging your parenting. We're not judging how your kid was acting or anything along those lines. We understand that these are normal actions for young children, and all we are doing is using sometimes gentle methods, sometimes consequential methods to help the kids learn to control it and help the kids learn the lessons that's going to help them get to the next stage of development, mental and physical control, and things along those lines. It is nothing for a parent to be embarrassed about. You know what I mean?
No, and there's nothing your kid could do
that we haven't seen way worse,
and that we haven't seen before and don't know how to deal with.
Yeah,
but everything kids do is developmentally appropriate.
Yeah, we've handled everything from kids that won't even look at you and just run away constantly, to young ones that had a dirty mouth or were very physical with other kids, and had a habit of pushing and shoving and things along those lines. We have, no matter what the challenging behavior is, we have a method or more, well, usually 5 or 6 methods that will help them overcome that challenge. But you have to let us have the time, and you have to not get embarrassed about it, and let us handle it quietly, and let us try our methods until we figure out what's going to work, and communicate with us. Communicate with us about the situation, and we will communicate with you about our methods and why we're going to try them, and what we're going to try, and what you might be able to try at home. We've done this many, many times. And we can help, but you have to get over that concept of worrying about being judged. We're not judging you, we're not judging your kid or anything along those lines. But like I said, we've had people quit over just the embarrassment of their kid losing control in sparring, and one of us pulling the kid aside and having them just go with an instructor or something like that. But it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's completely normal. And when we pull the kid aside and we set these things up about, okay, we're going to do this instead until you learn control, we're going to do this instead until you can be calm and not be angry about it, it's us teaching them coping skills. It's not us getting on to them. It's not them getting into trouble. It's not your parenting being judged. It's none of these things. It is simply us helping them develop a new coping skill. And that's what we're here to do. That's what we advertise that we do, and we do it.
We train their bodies to train their minds.
Yeah, we do it. And
their mind is the most important thing. They're a good, healthy mindset.
Thank you, Sherry, for all your comments. I have been watching them. That's actually what sparked the last part of what I said.
A good, healthy mindset for all of our students is a number one priority for us.
Yep.
And we can't do that if we aren't setting personal goals for them. And we have personal goals for each one of our students. Trust me, we do.
Right.
We have over 200 clients, and we have personal goals for every single one of them.
Well, and sometimes, I mean, this one people have only been frustrated about maybe 2 or 3 times in the past 12 years if I had someone do this. But another example of that, talking about setting boundaries through behaviors and stuff like that, is we have a thing. I know Ms. Rose doesn't do it on the front floor, but on the back floor, we leave a little bit of time between our Level 2 Tigers classes to do what we call a pre-class game, which is a game before the class starts. It's a nice little warm-up to get the jiggles out, let them run around a little bit, or maybe introduce them to the skill we're going to be working on that day. And we often have students come in early because they want to do the pre-class game. That's fine. And we typically start the pre-class game about 10 minutes before class starts. But every once in a while, we have students show up 20, 30 minutes before class starts. And that's okay, too. I'm not complaining about that. And we will sometimes work with them on material if they need a little extra help, like a bit of a private lesson. Other times, Axel plays with them and does some different things. But at the same time, when someone comes in that early, we have policies we have to do to make sure the class goes smoothly. For example, we have what we call a team meeting or a leader meeting about 20 minutes before every class or so, or before every day classes start, where we get with the assistants, we discuss what equipment needs to come out, when it needs to come out, how it needs to be set up, what drills are going to be running, what they need to understand, what they need to be correcting, all of these things. And so sometimes we have a student come in early and we'll play around with them a little bit, but then we have to have our team meeting. And sometimes I've had to in the past go to kids and be like, hey, I need you to stop for a minute. You can go punch the bags. You can go run around the mat. Go see, but I need to stop what we're doing for a minute because I have to have a meeting with my team. Because if we don't have that meeting, class is not going to run smoothly because the only person that will know what's happening is the one who planned the class, and no one else will know, and will be following along, and it never works well, right? And I've had a couple times I've had people get frustrated about that. Parents get frustrated about us, setting that boundary and stopping them and saying, hey, that's enough of what we're doing right now. In whatever way that we say it, and we need to have our team meeting, and then we can come back. Most people seem fine with it, but I've even had a few people get frustrated about that. But understand that that's all still part of us teaching the children how to set boundaries, right? Different ways, because the one thing I will do, I won't do it like an adult, and I won't do it like a parent. So, for example, if a kid is doing something with Axel and they're going back and forth on things and it's getting a little like crazy or out of hand or whatever, and I need to have my team meeting, instead of saying, hey, I need you to stop and go sit over there like an adult would say it, I try to say it a little bit more how you might say it to a friend, which would be like, hey, this could go on forever. You're not gonna get the better of each other in this particular game. It looks like a stalemate. So in that case, I'm gonna take Mr. Axel and I'm gonna take the rest of our team, and we're gonna have our meeting real quick, and I need you to go over here, find something else to do, right? And that's usually how I do it. I don't do no, we need to have this meeting. I need you to go sit on the edge or go sit with your parent or something. Like, I don't do it harshly. I do it in relation to the conversation, so the kids learn how to use conversational terms and to use the actual situation that's happening in the way that they express their boundary, which I feel like is an important part of setting boundaries, by using context and not just saying no, but using context to the no. Okay, I'm not just going to tell you no, I'm going to tell you that what you're trying to do here is not going to get you anywhere, and so we're going to go ahead and stop this and do something else. You know what I mean? And so even when it seems like we might be getting on to kids, we're not. And I guarantee you, if you ask the kids, they'll feel like we weren't getting on to them. Ask you, did you feel like the instructor got on to you? And 90% of the time they're going to say no. Every once in a great while, right? The kids are going to say no, because we don't do it from the point of a big, stern, high-up leader, right? We do it from a place conversationally, in context, so that they learn how to put context into the boundaries they try to set. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I use that kind of language when I speak with our younger ones, especially because if I just have a do as I say and not as I do, or just listen to me because I'm an authority mentality, they're going to push and try to spread their wings and really push boundaries.
The more you tell someone just straight up, no, you can't, without giving them a reason or letting them convince themselves of what the right thing to do is, the more likely they are to do that undesired behavior. Yeah. Right? And it doesn't matter. I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times over the years with stricter parents of their kids in here, and I mean, it's okay to be a little strict sometimes. You have to be a little bit strict sometimes. What I'm saying is sometimes we had parents that were maybe over strict, and the more they just said, no, you can't do this, no, I won't allow this, the sneakier the kids got, and the more they did those behaviors, especially when the parents weren't around. I've talked about this many, many times on many, many podcasts and live videos about the psychology behind this and why it's important to teach kids to get kids to convince themselves of the right thing to do. And so one of the reasons we add that context into setting boundaries and things along those lines is because we're giving them a reason. We're giving them a reason for the boundary. We're telling them why. We're telling them why this is important, or why we need this behavior, or something like that. We explain it to them so that they have the opportunity, they may or may not do this, but they have the opportunity to choose a better behavior because they see it will help them in the long run, or because they see it will make things better, right? So just saying, no, don't do that is usually what's going to cause a student to keep pushing those boundaries and do it more and more and more. By saying, hey, we're not going to do that, and here's why, or this isn't going to work, and here's why, and I don't have to say here's why, right? I'm not trying to give you a script. It's usually a lot more subtle than that. It's usually more of a, like I was saying about a kid playing with Axel or something, it's usually more of a, hey, you're not going to get the better, neither one of you guys is going to get the better of each other right now, right? Like, that's the why. Neither one of you guys are going to get the better of each other right now, so I'm going to ask you guys to stop doing this real quick, and I'm going to do our team meeting, right? And I use the term ask, not tell, right? And of course I'm telling, but I use the term ask. And this helps set that concept up, or where I have a kid acting up like being too many outbursts in class, or maybe a little bit too not raising their hand to speak, or maybe a little bit disruptive, or things along those lines. If I get to the point of pulling that child aside, which I don't usually have to very often, but if I do, then I'm not getting on to them. I'm not yelling at them or growling at them. All I'm doing is saying, hey, the more you do that, the more of everybody's time it wastes, and we're not going to be able to get to the things we want to do. Now, if you have a question that has to do with what we're doing, then I will answer that question, and I'm good with that. But if you just keep doing this, it's going to end up making everybody frustrated because no one else gets to ask a question, or because we're not going to end up actually getting through our work to get to a game. I use lots of different explanations for different situations, different reasons. I always put it in the context of what's happening right then and there. I don't do a script. It's always in context. Yeah. But I never do that. I just gently say, hey, can you do me a favor and not do that because it is causing this? And kids are understanding. You'd be surprised how understanding a 5 and 6-year-old can be about, oh, okay, yes, I'll try a little harder through the rest of class. And then I get them to promise me they're going to try harder. That's all. I get them to promise me they're going to try harder, and then I tell them, but if you don't, then there'll be a consequence. Yep. And we don't get on to students. We just have that encouraging talk with them, and then if it continues, we follow up with whatever consequence that we've given. But we're not in trouble. We don't get on to them or anything along those lines. And this is all part of helping them understand how to explain themselves, helping them understand how to think, how to put their emotions into words, which is really, really important, in being able to tell people what they feel and why they feel that way, which is why when someone is acting, and I think they're acting out of emotion, I ask them emotional questions. I ask them things like, would you say that you are angry or are frustrated, or did something about that make you feel like you had to hit really hard, or something along those lines, so that I help them. I'm just doing it to help them understand their emotions and to help them learn to explain their own emotions. I've been doing it with Axel since he was like 4, and he's usually pretty good about explaining his emotions, except sometimes there's quick things that happen and escalate super fast. And when it escalates super fast, he doesn't always get the expression out. Yeah. But no one does. Honestly, adults are bad about that too. When something escalates like that, adults are often bad about being able to communicate their emotions as well. So, but that's all we're doing. We're teaching them how to communicate their emotions. And we're not judging you. We're not judging the kids or anything along those lines. Remember that this is what we advertise. Remember that this is what you brought your kids in here for, is because our methods work. And our methods work in helping kids learn communication skills, better coping skills, de-escalation skills. They're learning how to make better decisions. They're learning how to focus better. And they're going to make mistakes all the way along that line. They're going to make mistakes. But, if you need to look anywhere to see this stuff for yourself, we have tons of students you can just come in and talk to. Come in and talk to Mr. Axel. He's only 10. Most people have no idea that he's only a couple years older than some of the students he helps teach. We have some kids in our beginner classes that came from Tigers, that if you spoke to them, some of these kids are 7, 8, 9 years old, and you would be just like, right? And that's what I'm saying. These methods work. Because these are kids that will sit there and hold a relatively adult level conversation with you in a mature way, in a calm way, and express themselves very clearly and express their emotions very clearly and in a friendly and meaningful way. And I noticed that, I play some video games and stuff online, and I'm noticing, as talking to some of the kids we have here that also play some of the same games I do online, what I love about it is most of our students are very good about being that positive presence on online video games that you don't see enough of, because normally it's the negative people that are all, oh, you stink, delete the game, and cursing and all kinds of stuff. But I've noticed that several of our younger ones that have been with us for a while that play these kind of games, when I've seen them playing with Axel or heard their stories about playing with other people, they really try to be very sportsmanlike about it, and they really try to, and that's important. Like, these kids are putting in out, and some of these kids are doing this leadership thing, this role model thing at 7 and 8 years old.
Yeah, and I mean, I have some kids that have
Now, of
gone-
course, those 7, 8-year-olds that are at that level have usually been with us since they were 5. I do want to say that. It's not something that happens overnight. I apologize for cutting you off, but I didn't want anyone to get the wrong impression. Go ahead.
So as I was going to say, I have a few kids that have gone all the way through level 1 and level 2 Tigers and are in my level 1 fundamentals class, my older class. And yeah, they might be only 8 or 9 years old, but I can trust them with a new student their own size.
And you can actually tell them, hey, ask them, hey, can you teach this student how to do this technique? And they will teach that student how to do that technique.
And they know to go at appropriate pace. They know how to explain things. They know how to look at their partner's face and go, hey, they seem a little frustrated, or hey, they seem confused.
Hey, no reason to be upset and make a joke.
Yeah.
Like extreme leadership capabilities. Not that we have them teach or anything, but we'll
No.
often put a new student with someone like them to say, hey, this person's never done this technique before. If they're struggling, will you help walk them through it?
Yep.
And it usually works out better, because then that way both kids get to have that fun experience or that bonding experience with another person their own age, and that is also an important part about the culture and things that we built, right? Because then they get to have these positive interactions with people their own age, and in the day of online social media and negativity and things along those lines, it's awesome what that can do, you know. And then on top of that, you know, being able to make good friends. Do some of these kids still get a little overexcited sometimes? Yeah. Do they sometimes act out through that overexcitement because they're having a good time? Yeah, but you know what? Maybe we have to reel it in sometimes, but oftentimes they are also part of what is causing the entire class to have a good time. Oftentimes, sometimes some of these kids' outbursts, yes, we may need to reel them in a little bit or something like that, but oftentimes those outbursts are creating positive and fun and funny memories for all the other students and teachers alike. And so that's why even if we take a child aside and give them a talk about a behavior, you know, like I was just saying, talk to them about their behavior and explain why we need a different behavior, doesn't mean we didn't appreciate their input, even though they may have done it in a non-desirable way. Doesn't mean we don't appreciate their input, because it could be giving someone else a positive experience.
Yep.
Right?
And I have kids in my older class that know that if I say, hey, does anyone need to see this again before we start, even if they are my best student, they will still raise their hand and say, I want to see it again.
Yeah.
Because
and we've taught them to do that because new students are not likely to admit to needing help.
Yeah.
And so we
other students.
We never really taught it. We've encouraged the
Yeah.
longer term students to, regardless of how well they know a technique, always request that extra help, because there's probably someone else on the floor that needs it.
And that comes through our whole entire process of not discouraging them, but encouraging them to move forward in a way that is mentally healthy for them and mentally healthy for those around them.
Yeah. But point of it, don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. Don't get upset. Don't feel like we're judging your parenting where we're not. We've had our parenting judged in that same kind of manner, you know, when Axel was really, really young and did things that young kids do. You know, there were a couple of different times where we were, where it was taken to us as, or brought up to us as, hey, this means you're obviously an awful parent. This means that your parenting stinks, and this, that, and the other, and tried to really throw a lot of shade our way over our methods and things like that. But look at the boy now, right? And those were our methods being used. Mm-hmm. And we know what it's like to be judged for our parenting, because a kid says something that they likely don't even understand fully, and that they just said to be funny or something along those lines, and it gets taken as, oh, well, they must have heard that from their parents. No, not necessarily. Kids put together their own sentences from the time they're 4, guys. So, you know, kids might have heard a word or phrase here and there, but they will put together their own concepts and their own imagination. Their imagination is wild from like 4 until 9 years old. It is wild. And so, yeah, they're haven't you had kids that are seeing kids that just walk around randomly saying words that don't even go together, as if they're singing or just making sounds with their mouth and things like that? Yeah, that's what kids do as they're trying to figure out what's appropriate, what they can say, what they can't say, things along those lines. And sometimes they're going to say things that are inadvertently really bad, but they don't understand that they're bad. They don't even understand what they said. All they did was put some words together that they know. You know what I mean? Like, and they don't really know what it means. They're just trying to be silly. They're just trying to be funny, and they don't really know. And fact of the matter is in no way, shape, or form are we going to be the type of people who I was just talking about were towards us when Axel was 4 or 5. In no way, shape, or form are we going to be like that. We understand kids are kids, and we are not going to judge you on anything your kid says or does or otherwise, right? Unless there is actual physical safety issues or something like that where we're required to. But outside of that, you know, we're gonna take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? And we're gonna not worry about it. It's not a reflection of you. We're not gonna see it as a reflection of you or your parenting or otherwise. We're going to help them instead learn better ways to communicate and better ways to express themselves. Someone once said to me, if you're worried about your parenting, you're a good parent. There you go. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. But it's amazing how many people are out there who throw shade and cause all kinds of drama over what they claim is someone else's parenting fails, when all that happened was a kid doing something completely normal developmentally for their age out of curiosity or overstimulation or overexcitement or something like that maybe is not socially appropriate and typically, but is a kid that may not know it's not, so they might not like, to him or her, whatever they're saying or doing, maybe it's new to them, like they've not even experienced that or have nothing to draw off of, and they've put that together and had no idea that what they were doing or saying was socially inappropriate. And so it's our job to help guide them in that, you know, when they're young and they make these mistakes and things along those lines. But in no way, shape, or form are we going to judge the parent or think that a kid who acts up, or does something a little bit inappropriate is in any way a reflection of the parenting. If anything, it's a reflection of their imagination and creativity.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of ways to fail as a parent, but having an
imaginative, expressive, and impulsive child,
a wiggly 4 to 6 to 9-year-old is not one of them. They're supposed to be that way. Absolutely they are. And yes, you know, developmentally they get curious about inappropriate things at a really young age. I think as a society we tend to ignore that until you're a parent, and then we all of us parents kind of keep quiet about it. But let's face it, anyone out there that's a parent knows that potty talk is normal.
Yep.
Body talk
is normal.
Him and her discussions are absolutely
completely normal. Yeah. And that kids are open and don't necessarily understand what's appropriate or not appropriate yet, right? And I don't think we have enough discussions about that as a society when it comes to parenting and parents. Because yes, just think about it. If your kid says or does something related to one of those subjects in public, you're probably going to get embarrassed because you're afraid that the other parent's going to judge you, because there's always that someone right there that's like, oh, well, that must mean that the parent said or did something inappropriate to the child. How else would the child have said or done what they did? And it's like, that is the most ignorant of child psychology and behavioral development thing that I've ever heard in my life. But I get it. There's always people out there that are like that. But I can promise you that we are not like that. We do understand behavioral development and psychology, and we do understand that kids are going to be inappropriate times because they haven't learned what is appropriate and inappropriate yet. They're still learning about the world around them and themselves and their bodies and things like that. They haven't learned what's appropriate and inappropriate yet, mostly because as parents, we have to be open to being able to teach them these things, right? And in being open to teach them these things, it makes the child feel like they can be open about these things in other places, which leads to kids doing things that are inappropriate, like maybe dropping their pants in Walmart at 4 or 5 years old. It happens. It happens.
They had to go potty and they could not wait anymore.
It happens. You know, things like that do happen. We've had accidents on the floor. It happens. It's okay. You know,
we've had doors not shut to the bathroom, and I just
we just try to remind them, hey, make sure you shut the door. Yeah. These kind of things happen. It's completely normal, and we are not going to judge your parenting based on that. If anything, it means that you're doing a good job being open and explaining and talking about these things to your kid. The fact that they feel so comfortable, and all we got to do at that point is just reel in by explaining to them what's appropriate, what's not, and why. And once they get that, it's not a problem anymore.
We love that you're comfortable here, but you're not at home, so you have to shut the bathroom door.
Yes, right. right? But we're not going to judge you or your child over it. That was the whole point of this video.
Yep.
Anyway, we've been on here too long. I got to go get my workout in. So until I see you guys again, be the best teammate you can be the best of being you, and leave those comments. I love having these conversations with y'all.